went to figure out how to build the products that the companies sell so that they could make money and grow the company. These other people, they just went straight to the banks. They just went straight to the money. We were dumb. We went circuitous route to the money. He was being playful, but what he meant is, and he actually tried to, he was like, hey, if I gave you $1 million, how much could you make it? All stuff. And I was like, listen, I'm not interested. I appreciate it. And Kevin's like, only someone like you, Alan, could turn down $1 million while being broke as a joke.
Welcome to the Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help home service pros cut through the noise, sharpen their business tools, and reclaim the profit, freedom, and impact they've been missing. I'm your host, Richard Walsh, Profit Freedom Coach, and I'm here to help you stop grinding and start growing. Let's sharpen the spear. And we are back on STS Sharpen the Spear podcast with not just another incredible guest, but another returning incredible guest for part two. I've got Alan Lazaros with us, and this is an extension from one back. You know, go find him in my thing. I don't even have their episode number, but he'll be in there. You can get up to speed on his full story and everything else. We're going to cut right to the chase today and get in because I want to dive into his actual business and what he does. We barely got to that last time. So, Alan, let's pick up from there. Thanks for coming on again. I appreciate making the time twice. This is amazing. I really appreciate it, but you're worth the effort.
Thank you. And I think it says something when you are invited back. That's good news. It's for both of us. I saw this on my calendar and I was like, sharpen the spear. Yes, Richard, good. And I had a very excited feeling. So that's good news. Thank you for having me. I'm honored. I appreciate it. I think the 21st century is very noisy, so I like to have meaningful conversations that are of value, and I don't really like to talk about nonsense, so I'm excited to get into it. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, well, you're in the right room for that. Okay, I don't do nonsense. I no time for that. So let's dive into it. Give us a little background on the business. You've grown an incredible business. I want to talk to you, getting a little bit in the nuts and bolts, kind of stay high view too at the same time, and let's tear it up.
Yeah, so the 21st century, I see a trend happening, obviously, and I know this is different than back in your day because you did trades and you were a craftsman. And last time we talked, I remember you telling me about how it was just go earn more instead of run the company more effectively. It was just go earn more, earn my way,
right.
Earn my way. And then in 2008, I think that bit you in the butt a little bit. So in 2008, I was a sophomore in college, right? And I started my first company when I was in 2012. It was called Campus Libre. It was a campus-specific Craigslist for textbooks. Me and 3 of my close friends at WPI had a website, and it was going to be buy and sell things. Our biggest competitor back then was called ULoop. It was like a Craigslist specific to campuses, buy and sell a sofa, kind of like what Facebook Marketplace is now, but for college campuses. And me and the CEO had a falling out, and then I went into corporate after that. And then at 26, I got in that car accident. We talked about it last time. And then I started my company, Alan Lazaros LLC, what you'll never learn in school but desperately need to know. And the essence, I always hold up this rock when I talk about essence. It's dragonite.
I love rocks. I love rocks.
Perfect. Well, you also work with them as a craftsman,
That's
right? So you do fountains and all kinds of stuff. So this, I always say an entrepreneur's essence, you cannot build a business that is outside of your essence. And so for me, I just can't get away from it. I'm obsessed with the word potential. And there's a 3-pronged approach. So I do this with I have a podcast called Business Growth University, and each episode talks about different things. And one of them is your 3 obsessions and your 1 word. So my 1 word in the center is potential. I help people reach their potential, their own unique potential. And the 3 words around it is fitness, personal development, and business. Those are my 3 obsessions: fitness, personal development, and business. I was in the fitness industry way back then, 10 years ago. I'm 36 now, even though I look 15. And I realized, Richard, there's very little personal development and there's almost no business. There's some, but not great. Then I get in the personal development space and I realize there's very little fitness and there's some business, but not great. Then I get in the business world and it's like, where is the fitness and personal development? So I'm kind of trying to merge those 3 things. Audacious goal, definitely going to be nearly impossible to do, but I'm shooting for it. So what do I do now? So Next Level University is the name of the company. It's also the name of the podcast. We just surpassed our 2100th episode.
Wow.
Yeah, I think 2102 was earlier today. Thank you. Kevin and me, my business partner, and we have a podcast production company called Next Level Podcast Solutions that's underneath Next Level University. And we work with 108 as of yesterday. I track metrics every day. Big engineer, everything's numbers for me. 108 podcasters and business owners that we work with now. So the nuts and the bolts, if we want to get into it, I can talk about the structure. I can talk about the 15, 16 departments now. I can talk about how we overexpanded. We had 24 departments, a charity, and 24-person team. Now we only have 18 people, and we had to sit down and have a conversation. I talked to Kev. I said, listen, we overextended. We were growing by 119% year over year for 4 years straight. That was the average growth. And we got into some debt. We took on some debt that we were like, yeah, this is going to be no problem to pay back. Look at how much we're growing, right? The fish are jumping in the boat. Let's rock and roll post-COVID. Everyone and their mother starting a business online and a podcast. And then it was 18% and then 11%. So I had to go to Kev and say, brother, we're going to go out of business if we don't button up. And so we got to focus on the departments that we will go out of business without. So we went from 24 departments down to 8. Only 8 of them were directly profitable that we really needed, because we got what I call shiny object syndrome, and we just started doing a bunch of dumb shit, pardon my French, and spending money we didn't have, buy the Beamer, that whole thing, hire that person, shouldn't have. And so now here we are kind of doing that again, but less unintelligently, because things are getting real good again. So I figure, why not get cocky? I'm joking. At the end of the day, if you don't stay humble in business, you're going to go out of business. And I'm trying really hard. We're in a phase right now where we need to button up. We need to minimize what we focus on so that we can be a meaningful, specific company rather than, I always say when Circuit City bought CarMax, that was the end. What are we doing? Circuit City is not known for cars, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to be specific and don't stray too far from your essence. So I guess that's the high level.
That is cool. Yeah, there's a lot of takeaways there. Alan, we all know we get outrun and making too much money. Not that there is too much money, but we feel like we're just really killing it. And we're done with our bootstraps, right? Mm-hmm. Now we got slip-ons. We got slip-ons now. We don't have bootstraps anymore. Right? So, nice. So we're just going. We're just going, and we all get in trouble because things, we can pay anything we want, for anything we want. So hey, I'll get this and I'll get that, and it builds up, like you said, the departments. Okay, now you're talking personnel, payroll that never stops, right? It's every week or every 2 weeks or whatever it is, and that is brutal on any business. It's like one of the number one, probably most business. It's the number one issue most businesses have is just that
largest expense.
Yep.
That is the largest expense for most small cap businesses.
Yeah, and it just never ends, and it's a drain. And we get excited because we're growing, so we figure we need more people. Mm-hmm. Instead of taking that time to look at, well, what are my people actually doing? Right. Just everybody's happy. Everyone's got a title, and look, hey, there's no nameplate for your desk. We start doing dumb things like that, and don't realize we have 3 of the same people.
Richard, you got to speak for yourself on that one.
I'm digging into personal experience. Okay.
No, it's true. It's true. You have 3 people doing the same redundant things. Yeah.
Yeah, or the purchases are silly.
Yeah.
They're just like, you do it because you can.
Yeah.
There's no other justification. Right? It's just a pleasure. It's just
You were definitely richer than me.
I'm just telling you, it gets stupid, right? So
it does.
But like
everything becomes a good idea when you're winning.
That's right. How could I possibly lose? It's me. So you about stuff like that. But Alan, you're right though. But one thing I loved about your story when we talked last time as well is that recognizing the position you're in. Okay, not too late, not early enough, but at a good time where you could still reconcile. Mm-hmm. Right, you could fix it. You could pare down. Right, get right the ship. And that's hard for a lot of entrepreneurs because there's a lot of ego involved. All of a sudden you're paying all these people and you're feeling, man, there's a lot of people working for me, man. I'm supporting families. Yeah. I'm all this, right? And it's hard to let that go. It's hard to go have those hard conversations that end with goodbye.
Yeah, it's not
Okay,
good.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so talk about that a little bit, because that couldn't have been a pleasant time having to do that.
It wasn't. So Kevin and I, so he's my business partner, and we have three chief officers. It's me, Kevin, and Christina. We call ourselves the three cowards.
True sea
Playfully.
levels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know it. Well, the truth is, none of us wanted to be bad cop,
Right.
right? And I had to be CEO, right? And I said, listen, we're gonna have to button up here, and we're gonna have to say no to this, this, and this. And well, how are they gonna pay? I know. Well, if we don't do this, there's no more money. Period. Because when we go out of business, everyone loses their job. So we got to button up here. And so one thing that we ended up doing, there was redundancies on the back end of podcast production. And when you're producing 70 shows, that adds up quick. And again, this is all relative, right? We're not a $100 million company by any means, okay? But we have grossed well over $1 million. We're coming up on $500,000 this year. So it's all relative. It's all relative. So for our smaller company though, and this is the deal too, a lot of people don't think about it this way. Just because we're a small company, we have a certain amount of resources. And we're bootstrapping the company, no investors. No investors. And that's on purpose. That's by design. So when we make, let's say $500,000 this year, which is what we're projected for, I'm going to reinvest a certain amount of that back in the company, back in team, back in equipment, back in new cameras, back in the studio, back into softwares we don't need. I'm kidding. Back into all this stuff. And the way that I see it is where you put your time, effort, and money, those are your only resources. That I've had to simplify things because it gets so damn complex. 18-person team, some of them I've never met, and this is back to the 21st century thing. Back in your day, for lack of better phrasing, there was no global online company that didn't have an actual building. Now, I've not met some of these people, not even virtually, right? These are people that, so all over the world, Philippines, Canada, Spain, we got people all over the world. Some of them I've met, some of them I've met virtually, some of them I've met in person. We do a live event every year, Next Level Live. And then some of them I've never even met. So one of my directors' brother does our thumbnails. I've never met him virtually or in person, right? And so it gets, how do I make sure that everyone is optimizing their time? So this is what I've done. No one else has to do this if they don't want to, but this is what I do. Everyone has a timesheet with 4 columns. It's really quite simple. The first column is the date. Second column is the amount of minutes invested. The third column, what you accomplished. You have to describe what you accomplished. 1 sentence. It's nothing crazy. And then the fourth column is you have to tie it to one of your priorities. Now, this is the hard part, and this is where the engineer comes in. Every one of my team members has their top 3 priorities, including me. And I track my time too. At the end of every month, we do monthly payroll, not biweekly. At the end of every month, I analyze where everyone put their time, and I use ChatGPT to analyze and Pareto. 20% of time and effort produces 80% of results. So I don't want to have a 300,000 person company. I want to have the Spartan 300. You ever see that clip where it's Leonidas and the Spartan 300 where he says, "What do you do?" And he says, "I'm a potter, sir." He's like, "What do you do?"
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm a blacksmith." He's like, "What do you?" And then Spartans, "What do you do?" And it's just rah, rah, right?
Yeah.
He's like, "See, I brought more soldiers than you did." So I have that mentality of, I decided early on, listen, I'm not trying to build a company with 50,000 people. I want 300 ridiculous Spartans. And the only way to do that is we all track metrics and habits. We all have what's called a PPT, a peak performance tracking sheet. And everything's tracked. And that sounds micromanagey, but they all do it themselves. And once a month, we run reports. Once a quarter, we run reports. I can see who's successful, who's not. And it's a very honest group, too. So I'm not concerned about whether or not they're honest. And they know I'll notice anyway, because everything's numbers for me. I'm going to notice, and okay, so that took you 6 hours? Come on. No way. So it's working unbelievably well. And it's a sports metaphor, but when the scoreboard is available for everyone to see, because we do this in Google Sheets where everyone has access to everyone, and Google is the workspace that we use for our IT, it's unbelievable how motivated people are by that. No one wants to let the team down. No one wants to, and if you're not a good fit for that, then you go elsewhere, and that's all good. So that's a long-winded way to say, I am trying to, and I'll share, this will be the last thing I'll share about this. You can Pareto. The 80-20 rule, you can 80-20. So 20% of 20% is 4%. 20% of 4% is 0.8%. 20% of 0.8% is 0.16%. 20% of 0.16% is 0.04%. So I always tell my team, what are the 0.04% essentials? It's a crazy 21st century world where there's a lot to do. There's more to do than can ever be done. What are the 0.04% essentials? And what you get for an ROI mathematically on that is one input is 1,024x ROI. Now, people say, if you go to Vegas, you put $1 in, you can get $1,000 back, $1,024 back. No. What it really is you put $1 in, you get punched in the face for 10 years, and then you get $1,024 back. But the truth is, leverage is the future. And you can leverage better than ever because of tech.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's one of the key things I learned early. I was a fitness trainer too while I'm building my business and doing this different stuff. And that's when I began to understand leverage.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's only so many hours in a day. You got to train everyone for an hour. There's a immediate cap on what you can do, right? And you can charge more, but you're still working the same. Your leverage, that's not leverage. Leverage, charging more is not leverage. Okay, that's just increasing income, right? Leverage is like, well, how do I get trainers working for me? That's leverage. How do I build a gym? How do they do all three and I don't do any, right? So I totally get where you're going. And I think the real takeaway and the whole thing you just described was the need for data in your business, right? We have to be tracking. We have to be measuring. This is something that like I always did in my head, which means I didn't do it at all. Okay. I learned when I started working with businesses, I'd ask them about sales close rates. Well, what's your close rate? It's around 90%. I go, 90%. You're not at 90%. You're at 90%. You can work for me, but you're not. So we get to where they say, about 50%, about 40. I go, well, what's this about? Yeah. I go, what's this? Is it 37.3%? Is it what? There should be a real number somewhere in there. Otherwise, you're not tracking anything. Okay. And it's true. And then they do it. Oh, okay. Maybe it's not. And you look at it like, dude, you're at like 23% close rate. You're at 50. Okay. Yeah. You're at 50% if you go bid 2 jobs and you get one. Okay. And you don't do any more for the rest of the year. Okay. So, we have these hard conversations, right? And it's just trying to talk about it. But you are way beyond what I do as far as data goes. And I love it.
Well, thank you.
Okay. I think I just would have to hire someone. Yeah. Because my brain doesn't function like yours. I struggle with math.
I had a theory growing up. And again, I was definitely a nerd who no one liked for obvious reasons. And luckily that's changed a bit. But one thing that I found very fascinating is there would be, so I had an ex-girlfriend and she would say, I hate math. And I remember I said this to her and now I realize why it didn't land because I couldn't communicate it to save my goddamn life. But I said, if I could take the amount of wealth in the world and separate it out between the people who grew up saying I love math versus the people who grew up saying I hate math, 80% of the wealth would be in the hands of the people who said, I love math. Now, you are an exception to that because you obviously became very wealthy through brute force, it sounds like, with all the love. But at the end of the day, I had a mentor once. He was the CEO of a billion-dollar robotics company. I'll just say that. And we were at dinner having sushi once. And he said, Alan, we made a mistake. I said, what do you mean? He said, see, my private equity people, like my friends now, and this is after he was CEO, he said, see, we went for our engineering degree. He got mechanical engineering, I did computer engineering. He said, we made a huge mistake. We went to figure out how to build the products that the companies sell so that they could make money and grow the company. These other people, they just went straight to the banks. They just went straight to the money. We were dumb. We went circuitous route to the money. he was being playful, but what he meant is, and he actually tried to, he was like, hey, if I gave you $1 million, how much could you make it? All stuff. And I was like, listen, I'm not interested. I appreciate it. And Kevin's like, only someone like you, Alan, could turn down $1 million while being broke as a joke. Right? It's like, listen, I don't want anyone's hands in my cookie jar. If I wanted someone to be able to tell me what to do, I would have stayed in corporate. Okay. But at the end of the day, these metrics, you're not gonna have an Olympic athlete who doesn't have any data. Hey, Michael Phelps, what was your time? I think it was like 13.5 plus or minus 13. Like, he knows every metric. In sports, they know every freaking stat. There are people I grew up with who know sports stats better than their own career. Right. And I used to be the guy who was like, guys, if you knew your own stats half as well, 1/10 as well as you know all this fantasy crap, you guys would all be really successful instead of what you are. And that was me being kind. But some of them are not going to make it, and they're not successful, and they're still living in their mother's basement and that kind of thing, and they're drinking too much and too often. And again, I'm not here to judge. What I am here to say is you got to have metrics.
Yeah.
You got to have metrics. You got to know your weight. You got to know your bank account. You got to know your body comp. You got to know where you're putting your time and your effort, and you got to know your priorities. Like, these are fundamentals that we weren't taught in school. That's an absolute travesty.
Yeah, I agree. I can't. When I look at like workouts, as I train for boxing, okay, I became champion of that. My black belt status, my everyday, my rowing, okay, like everything. You talk about stats. I mean, I'm the guy with the book. You know, when I'm at the gym, even this morning, I'm looking. The guy's got the, you know, the little, the black and white like reader book. You know, the little study book thing. Whatever I forget what you call it, homeschoolers. But they're writing everything down. I love those guys.
Love it.
They do that thing. They write down. It's just like, man, and they're there every day. These are the consistent people, right? Like, they're in it. It's like, and here's the beauty of it. Like, I can go back to what year was it? Maybe 97, 96, and open up my book and look at my rowing workouts.
Nice.
And just go, dang, I was a savage.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm like, I could never do that now. I was out of my mind, right? But it's like, but I recorded it all.
You see Boys in the Boat yet?
Oh,
the,
yeah, that's
the film.
great. Yeah,
How great
I read
was
the
that
book
film?
too. Yeah,
Oh,
the film was
good.
great. Yeah, the book was awesome too. And just,
nice.
But it's that kind of stuff. All those records. You know, man, I was running 4.5 miles under 3 minutes with a minute rest. You know, just as a speed workout. You know, and just you look at this stuff, and as you get older, you compare. But and I still go hard in the gym, but it's a humbler for me too.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I'm working out that hard as I did in 97. I ain't.
No, no. You are, but you're
because
biology.
Well, because I have stats.
Yeah, exactly.
I can look and go, it's okay. I'm doing what I can do at this time, right, at the most. So I totally get it. And I think as I work with businesses, that is one of those things where it's so, they get a few and they don't, and then entrepreneurs kind of feel like they're the best at what they do, and they can just do it, and they can make up ground. They can slow it down, speed it up when they want. They're not measuring themselves against anything.
Yeah.
Maybe their bank account. You know, if there's money in there, they're winning. If there's not, they're losing. That's the stats they got, right? I know,
cash on hand.
I've been there.
That's it.
Yeah, so
they just cash on hand. Oh, the money's in the
rich.
bank.
We are rich till Friday. We are loaded. Amazing till payroll hits.
Funny, man. You're amazing till payroll hits.
And I have to laugh about it because I suffered from this for all those years.
Of course.
But now I look.
That's why it's so funny, because I've been there too, man.
Yeah, it's so fun to help them.
I coach business owners, so
Yeah.
some people don't care about cash on hand at all. They're only looking at net worth. Other people are tracking only cash on hand and don't look at their debt. Right? There's fundamentals. You got to track. It's so hard too, because there's really 8. I uncovered the 8 fundamentals of finance that I teach, and it's hard to keep track of all 8 of them. It is, and I can give them to you real quick. So gross income, gross revenue if you're a business owner. Only difference between income and revenue is personal versus business. It's the same thing, right? Same fundamental concept. Then you've got total expenses, critical. You got to know where the money's going. Got to. When we almost went out of business, that was why. Nobody was tracking it.
Right. Just
It was
having a
like,
good time.
yeah, yeah, nobody was tracking it. It's like, well, we're making a lot, so it's all good. Easier to make than spend. Easier to spend than make. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Easier to spend than it is to make. You got to track expenses. You got to know where your money's going. And then number 3 is net income, net revenue, obviously, which is just gross minus expenses. Boom. Profit margin, very important. We we have a minimum profit margin that we have to hit, otherwise we'll go out of business, right? And it's like, well, what about this client though? That same mentor. I said, what's the hardest part about being a CEO of a $1 billion company? He said, dude, the sales guys are too persuasive. They're so persuasive. They come to, so it's the business unit versus the sales team. The business unit needs to keep profit margin and make sure that we're not devaluing our products and services. But the sales guys are like, yeah, but this client though, what if they bought 100 units? Huh? And what if we gave them a discount? So you just dilute the price and eventually you go out of business because, and this is the really annoying thing, for lack of better phrasing, for an engineer. When I talk to business owners and they go, well, isn't it annoying that this iPhone cost me $1,200, but it only cost them $112 to make? Listen, it didn't cost them $112 to make it.
Right.
It cost them $112 cost of goods sold, cost of the actual materials. But who designs the freaking phone? How much do you think they're making? Right? Best engineers in the world are at Apple, and it doesn't actually cost $112 to make an iPhone. It probably costs freaking $1,100, and they charge $1,250 after marketing and branding and the website and IT and the engineers and R&D and all this stuff. But no one really. I joked with my business clients recently on our podcast, and I said, this shirt was $27. Do you know how many hands this shirt had to touch before it got to my doorstep? And I went through the whole thing. And Kev, my business partner, was like, and I realized he had never thought about that before. Why do you think it costs $27? You think things just show up at your door because you want them to? Like someone had to package it. Someone had to do the dye. Someone had to do the sewing. Someone had to do the buttons. Someone had to package it right. Someone had to saran wrap it. Someone had to put it in a box. Someone had to drive it to me. Like, people, we don't mean to.
Why is it only $27? That's the question.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I can't even believe it's a nice shirt.
Yeah.
At $27, this should be $150, baby. Makes me look like $1 million. I'm kidding. But between you and me, people who aren't thinking that way, they get entitled unintentionally. It's like, well, why is it $27? Why aren't I making more? Because the company isn't making more. You have to make the company more money. They can't just give away money. That's how you go out of business. And so, unfortunately, we've got the whole people who do have the awareness, people who don't, and some people are entitled, but other people are just ignorant to how it works. And then you've got all the different forms of government. You've got business to business, business to government, business to consumer. And it becomes a web of stuff, but I can go through the rest of the finance stuff if you want to. But profit margin, then it's cash on hand, and then it's total debt, total assets, and then it's net worth. And if you have those 8 and you understand those 8, and I can take anyone through those 8, and again, I'm not technically licensed to do that, but I'm a business coach, so we obviously have to talk finance.
Right.
But the point is if you know those 8, trajectory matters more than current moment. And I always say this, it sounds stupid, but Kevin laughed when I said it. I think the future matters more than the now. Why? Because the future's going to be the now pretty soon. You got to care about trajectory. If you're green-headed yellow, headed red, that's way worse than red-headed yellow, headed green. Yep. And to me, trajectory is what matters most, because then time becomes your friend.
Yeah, I have to concur because I have time under my belt. Okay, and that future will be now is just that. And it only gets faster the older you get. And you look back, and again, just like looking at those logs, those numbers in my workouts, you look back and go, man, I had a lot of money that I didn't do the right things with. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't thinking about the future. You know, that's the difference. I did everything for right now. Achieve the thing for now. I lived in now. Not like, 60 seconds from now, but like get this job done, make that money. Okay, we'll go get another job and do that. There was no plan. It's Parkinson's law, right? No plan for the money. It will evaporate.
100%.
And that is what it did. You know, happens all the time, all the time.
Richard, what would you share about that? Because I get a lot of pushback on this. There's the power of now and all this. I don't agree. I think that long-term strategic thinking is and systems thinking. Of course, I'm an engineer who's future-oriented. My childhood was tough, so I went into the future to escape, luckily. And I thought, okay, well, the past is painful and the present is painful. And I was prepubescent. You think I look young now. I couldn't get a girl to look at me. I was just this loser nerd. Seriously. And I just was like, okay, well, I have to play the long game because I obviously am not going to hit puberty till 45. I'm joking. But I have to play the long game. So out of necessity, I played the long game, and it really has worked out beautifully. I mean, it's been a lot of pain and suffering and failure and challenge, but overall, my life has trended up, and I'm very grateful for that. But when I talk to people about the future thing, they say, oh no, just the power of now and be in the present moment. That's some bullshit. You need to be both.
The power now is they're dopamine addicts. They just want that hit. They want to see another like on their Facebook page or their social media or whatever. They want that now. It's an addiction. Okay, they can't have any delayed gratitude. They don't believe in that because they can get anything they want right now, within the day, from anywhere in the world. They can have it in their fingertips, right in their hands, and it creates a sense of it's not entitlement. It's now, and the more they get now, the more they want now. So again, it's dopamine hits, right? It's like that pleasure center of the brain, which is the same thing as doing coke or heroin or whatever. So that's why they get that way. So when you get someone like you, or like I talk about my son, my oldest son's that way. Everything he does is really. It was shocking when I kind of realized this when we were on a podcast ago. Everything is for the future. Yeah, everything he's doing now in the Marine Corps and this and school. Yeah. He doesn't talk about now. So I can do that. So I can, with a family, be able to protect him with my hands and a weapon. Right.
It's an investor's mindset.
Yeah, totally.
He's an investor. He invests the now for a bigger, better, brighter future. I agree with him. I do. And trust me, I grew up in an environment that was all now. There was no delayed gratification. You're going to pay the piper eventually.
Yep.
And I would rather you progress in an upward. I told Kevin that. I said, brother, you bought a sports car when you were in your early 20s. Where do you go from there?
Right.
When I was driving an S-Box, now I drive a Tesla. Awesome. Like, for me, it's only up from here. When you buy something immediately that you can't afford, you have to take steps backwards.
Yeah, people are buying liabilities. They don't even know the difference between an asset and a liability. I literally was with a woman, she did insurance and financial planning. So the first question I asked, well, hey, is my personal home an asset or a liability? She goes, it's an asset. I go, oh, okay, I got to go. I'll see you later, because my private home is a liability.
And it doesn't make
anything, right? It's an asset for the bank, okay, until I own it. And I'm like, you're not going to do anything with my money, right? Like, there's no way. I mean, that's pretty basic.
Good for you. Good for you.
You know what I mean? But you got to, but see, this is what's like you're saying. They don't have that, the basic knowledge.
The mathematics. Right, the mathematics, too. Because and I appreciate this conversation so much, Richard. I'm glad I came back. And here's the thing, too. I get villainized a lot. I'm not saying this because I don't care. I'm saying this because I do care. I want to see you win. I want to see people win. I want to see people reach their potential. The assets and liabilities thing, I have someone who, they think an asset is a car, right? And they're like, well, it's an asset. It's an exponentially depreciating asset. Yeah. And an asset is something that makes you more money now or in the future. But again, we weren't really taught much about finance in school. I wasn't. I know you weren't because of your age, right? So I didn't mean that negatively.
And my results. And the results. I got it.
But the basics of finance, right? It's why weren't we taught as kids what the difference between an asset and a liability? That's why Rich Dad Poor Dad did so well, because it was poor people buy liabilities, middle class buys liabilities they think are assets, and then wealthy people buy assets that actually generate revenue. Right. This camera could be seen as an asset because I generate revenue with it. It's utility. It's the mindset of utility. So your son, he's a utilitarian. He doesn't buy shit for vanity.
Right.
Right? Like this watch actually has utility. It tells me the time. I can track my workouts. I'm not going to buy some Rolex for 40 grand with some vanity metric. I would rather buy this for 400 and have it actually useful. And the Aura ring, same deal, right? So, but again, I think utility is unbelievably important. And by utility, I mean productivity, right? This laptop is a $2,000 laptop. It's a gaming laptop. I don't game on it. It's really, I'm a machine on this thing. This thing is super productive. This other Zen book over here, not as good. When I travel, I use that, and I regret it because this thing's huge. But I'm way more productive. Those milliseconds add up. And again, I get it. People always say, well, why do you have to be so dialed in all the time? It's like, when did it become not awesome to try to be better? What happened to excellence, and what happened to, I don't know, because I want to succeed? And people would say, well, you think too much, or you work too hard. It's, well, you don't think enough, and you don't work enough. You're lazy. Why am I trying to come to your end?
Yeah, well, you know what they say: easier to pull someone off a chair than lift someone up onto one, right? So everyone wants to bring you down to your level, but the other thing you don't get about that, like how you operate, Alan, is like it gives you peace, right? The reason that you're wired this way, right?
Yeah, I
So
love
like you don't have an option.
Yeah,
You don't.
deep.
You think,
This is
right?
deep. Yeah.
But where you really don't have an option, dude. You're right where you have to be,
Yeah, I'm in
doing
alignment.
what you need to do, right? So like that's what people need to understand. Like it's not he's a freak show, he's this or he's neurotic about, like all that stuff doesn't. And we all got our quirks, right? And you know what? I like quirky people.
Thank you, man.
You know,
Well,
because they're well, because you're doing what you're wired to do. Most people won't do that. They'll fight that their entire life and live in kind of misery.
I did for a while, and my car accident woke me up, and that was back to the essence thing we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with you, because people say, well, why bother? When you do achieve all your goals and dreams, you're just gonna, then what? Listen, people, and this is one more thing too that I'm so grateful we're talking about. People always said it's the journey, not the destination. But here's the thing: it's obviously the destination you choose in advance dictates the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I drove from Boston to LA in my early 20s at a very, very short amount of time trying to get into show business. Very short, 3 months. You walk outside my apartment, you see the Hollywood sign, Sunset Boulevard is two streets up. Take a right, you might get killed. I'm being playful. But it was not a great place. Not a fan of LA personally. But anyways, so Boston to LA was a magnificent journey driving across the country. It was really cool. Through the Rockies, do not put your car in cruise control on the Rockies. You'll blow out your transmission. Typical millennial, man. My buddy's transmission blew it out. My bad. Sorry. Here's the deal, though. People always say it's the journey, not the destination. No. The destination you choose in advance dictates the entire journey. What's the difference between going from Boston to LA through the Rockies versus 30 minutes south? If you want a magnificent life, you should choose a destination in advance that forces you to grow, forces you to contribute, forces you to become something of value. What most people want in life, I think, is a byproduct of something bigger or something deeper.
Yeah, I think they do. I think people they chase comfort, man. That's the issue, right? And now the more I've learned, over the years, like you see the whole comfort thing. Comfort is what shortens your lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
It literally shortens your lifespan. Like there's scientific data on that. Like you're going to die early if you're too comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
right? And no one wants to hear that. What am I always telling people? Do hard things. I go
Same.
push myself in the gym. I go do this. I don't, I'm not afraid of death by any means, but like, I just want to live like full, right? Like you said, the journey without the destination, there is no journey.
Nice.
That's just right. I mean, that's just it. You have a place on the map you want to get to. I climbed I've done like 28 of the 14ers in the Rockies, right? So 14,000 foot peak. So I'm working every year. We go do 3, 4, 5, me and a buddy, like, man, there's 54.
Good for
I
you.
get through them, like, let's go do that. We up and down
Good
and
for
doing this,
you, man.
and like we did these things, right? We had these incredible workouts. We do all this wild stuff that just pushed our bodies and our mind and do this stuff. And like that was just part of who we were, and we gained success through that. Right.
Yeah.
That's how we gain success, by doing that stuff. Yeah. It's not my business, but it contributes to my being, my well-being, and my ability to push. So I think that's the whole thing. And our goal was, our special goal was nobody beats us to the top. Okay. We're first on the top on that day. Like no one is getting
Did
there
that happen?
every time. Nobody ever beat
Nice.
us.
I
Okay.
love
So
it.
it was just, that's the thing. So,
I
but
love it. And I
we
mean
weren't
this
stopping
kindly.
and taking
You're a
pictures.
sicko. I love it.
Right. So
Good
we
for
just
you.
stop and take pictures.
Yeah.
Okay, we are to the top. Eat an orange, back down we go. Okay,
You know it. You know it.
yeah. So
And
it was
the fulfillment. I
Yeah.
always say fulfillment and meaning are a byproduct of alignment with your potential. Like what you're mentioning there, someone would be like, "Why the hell are you doing 28 peaks?" Because I want to live.
Yeah.
I want to because flow. You can study the neurochemistry, you can study the neuroscience, structural, chemical, and functional changes in the body, in the brain rather, in the brain. I've my girlfriend and I, we work out every day, and it was March 1st, 2022, and we started a streak. I said I want to beat my old best. I think I talked about this on the last episode.
Mhm.
And my old best was 3.5 months without it missing. And I was like, let's go for 4. Got 4. A year later, I was like, babe, we did it. She's like, what do you mean? I said, we hit a year. And I was like, now what? She said, let's do this for the rest of our life. And I had a mini panic attack. And any walking counts. 30 minutes was the minimum. Walking counts, jogging counts, swimming counts, weight training every other day. Exercise. 30 minutes tracked intentional movement. Bumped from 30 to 35, 35 to 40, 40 back down to 30, couldn't handle it. Life got in the way, and then back to 35, 40. Now we're at 45. I want to get us to an hour. 1,203 days, I want to say. I'd have to chat GPT it. March 1st of 2022. I have it down on the
Nice.
whiteboard downstairs.
Nice.
How many days has it been since March 1st of 2022? But the point is why do that? And people will kind of talk crap, and 841 days ago, there's no way that's possible. March 1st of 2022. How many days has it been since March 1st of 2022? That's wrong. Hey Siri, how many days has it been since March 1st of 2022?
This is why you can't trust your phones.
This is I have it downstairs. It's like, I know it's over 3 years. My point of this, though, is people say, well, why do that? Because the brain chemistry. We're healthier, happier, and more fulfilled and more productive. And by the way, why not? Is there a better use of our time than exercising? Longevity. You can look at the research. Even just doing a walk every day increases your life expectancy by like 7 years.
Yeah.
That's on average, right? So
Yeah, there's
I
so
admire
many
it. I love it. We've
yeah.
climbed 7 mountains, not 14,000 feet like you,
Yeah.
but and people think we're nuts. And I'm grateful to be with someone right now that
That's right.
also is
Who's
a little
nuttier?
yeah.
Well, we did a thing. I did a challenge at my gym when I had my gym. It's the 10K burpee club. So you know what a burpee is. You had to do 100 a day for 100 days. Like no total honor system, but you got to do 100 burpees. It could be 10 at a time, as long as you get them done within the 24 hours.
Love it.
There was 4 of us who made it. Me and 3 ladies. Okay.
Good for them.
None of the dudes made it. Total disappointment. They disgusted me. I said, how could you not do this? How can you get beat up
Good
by a
for you,
72-year-old? You got a 72-year-old woman over here who's outdone
Good
you.
for her, man.
You know, and
Good
she's
for her.
awesome. Yeah, she was a beast, and still is. But it's one of those things where like, but I got this little plaque. It says I did 10. Are you in the 10K burpee club? No, you're not in the 10K burpee. Have you done 10,000 of anything? You know, so I'm like that. That was just that thing, you know. But we set those high standards, right? Those high goals, and it is about reaching them. Okay, the journey's fun. No, 100 burpees a day isn't fun. Doing 10,000 burpees and getting a plaque, that's fun. That's the
Nice.
destination. Okay.
How
So
did you become such a hardwired achiever?
I
Because
have no
that's the
idea.
thing too. You're hardwired for achievement. So am I.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like when I was a kid, I don't know what it was. I could dive into the whole psychology of my upbringing and abuse and whatever. I mean, who knows? Like, you know what I mean? You get to a point where you're like, who cares? I do it. I mean, I could be a
I
loser.
love that you're in that
Okay, I
level
could
of acceptance.
I could be a do nothing mope. Okay, and I'm the other way. So I'd rather be disliked for being this way, But man, I love my life. I like doing this stuff.
It's
You know,
better than. This is the last thing I'll say. I sorry to interrupt you. That this was a quote that came to me 3 months ago, and I've been saying it ever since. And it's hardcore. People might not like it, but we're here for the truth. And I've been on both ends of this. The people who are grinding and growing toward their goals and dreams will always be the envy of people sitting around feeling sorry for themselves.
yeah,
And I've been on both ends of that. There were times in my life where I don't want to say gave up, but hopeless, nihilistic, just not putting it all on the court. There were times when I was feeling sorry for myself and I wasn't giving it my all. I had what I call an F-off phase.
yeah.
I tried the nihilism thing. I tried to drink a lot. I tried to say, screw it, whatever. I'm not gonna chase my dreams. And it was so depressing. Oh, it was terrible. It was so
Right.
bad. It might have looked fun from the outside. I got real good at making it look good. It was terrible. From the
Right.
inside out, it was terrible. And now my life from the outside in probably looks pretty terrible. But from the inside out, I promise you it's deeply fulfilling. And so,
Yeah,
here's to the crazy ones. I have it written right up here.
yeah,
Here's to the crazy ones up there. It's a Steve Jobs
Yeah.
quote. And
yeah.
here's to the crazy ones. That's what I think the theme of this episode was.
Yeah, I love it. We're talking about workouts too. I used to do these rowing workouts, me and a couple of buddies, and we did them. We were nuts, right? We trained at an Olympic level. Okay. We weren't Olympians, but we trained like we were.
Yeah. I love
Okay.
it.
We had a thing we called on the rower, right on the concept too. It's called the baby horse workout. Because when you're done, you try to get off and you just fall down. And you ever see a baby horse, how it falls
Yeah,
down and
yeah,
tries
yeah.
to walk? That's what we were. That's when
Nice.
you know you had a good workout.
Nice.
Because like you're like, and you fall over, right? So it's like, it's that kind of stuff. And we maintain a pecking order. I was first. My best friend Tom was second and Jim was third. Always. Never beaten.
No kidding.
Never won my seat, right? No matter what, I'm 500 meters behind at the finish. I remember my buddy say, and I just hear that fan. Oh, I'm like, oh, here he comes. And then I beat him. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, but just, again, this is the mentality that creates that achievement, right? That willingness to go in the physical and the mental, the whole aspect.
I know I'm turning this. I want to ask you a question because, again, I like to learn as well. When you were younger, wasn't achievement more revered? All these awards behind me, I'm owning it now. I'm an achiever. I love achievement. Accomplishment is awesome. When did that shift? When I was a kid, it was so celebrated that I got all these awards and that I was smart and that I got straight A's in high school and that when did achievement not become awesome? I'm so confused with what has happened.
There was a moment, and it's 2 words. It's participation trophy. That's when it all changed. When they started saying, well, you get a ribbon because you ran the race. We're not going to keep score because that's when you're little because it doesn't matter. Oh, it matters. And the kids know the score. Right?
It's going to matter in life.
I remember my dad's office was kind of like if you were my father in his office, that's what I'm seeing on his wall behind him. This plaque and this thing and this thing and this thing. I'm like, I remember seeing that. So he'd hang him. He was a golf course superintendent. Okay. With I'm like, man, that's like really cool. Like, I just remember seeing that. And he'd go to this conference, he'd do this and achieve this. And he'd put that thing. I was like, I want that.
Yeah.
So me and a roommate, when we were boxing, he was a Marine, I was a Marine. We come out, we had a hallway. We call it the Hall of Fame, We had all our achievements, all 3 rows straight all the way down the hallway.
All
right?
seventh place ribbons.
Yes, our joke was, when we bring the ladies over, we just walk them down the Hall of Fame, and they look at all that stuff. And there we are in the living room. It's all good, but it was that
All
thing.
participation ribbons.
Yeah, no, it wasn't quite that, but
I'm kidding.
But I gave them. I remember when I moved, I gave them all my boxing trophies. I'm like, here, man, you're opening the gym. Everything else, man, you trained me. We fought together. We did all this stuff, man. I'm leaving. I don't need this stuff. I know what I did. So I got to the point with those, like, I don't care about this. And I gave them to them. This look good in your gym window. The more trophies, the better, right? People come in. So, but I do like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm a words of affirmation guy.
The accomplishment piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
You back in your day when you were younger, wasn't there more reverence for achievement?
I believe there was. I think it was something that it was more revered. Okay, I think revered is the right word. And you got to somewhere. It was a different. There was different expectations.
It almost seems like we've lost some of that drive for excellence.
Because I think achievement then, and I can't quantify this, but I think achievement was harder because a lot of people were doing good things. A lot of people worked hard. A lot of people were at certain levels, and like you look like, to get to that level, that takes real commitment.
You think the work ethic has really dwindled?
I'm going to say yes and no, because work today has shifted. We can't tie work today to the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, agreed.
Right. So it's you have to. It's just different. But I do tell people, listen, work is work. I can work hard with a shovel. I can work hard on a keyboard. Okay, on this computer. Like, this is harder than the shovel. I'd rather work the shovel all day. Okay, but getting on the computer, doing all that, not my thing. It is hard for me. So when I say do hard things, I got to do that. I don't get to go do a hard workout because that's pleasure.
Yeah.
I don't get to go shovel and dig. That's pleasure. Okay, so I got to come here and suffer on this thing.
Good for you,
Type
Richard.
and stuff. So.
I do. This has been an absolute. Speaking of pleasure, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate it. Been an honor. I love it. I'll come back anytime you want. I do have a relationship talks free virtual event that my girlfriend and I are hosting in 1 hour, and I got to go help her out and set up. I just realized I was
to
in
maintain your relationship. So you can maintain your relationship.
That is part of it, but we're also business partners as well. You know the deal. We were in flow, man. We're 7 minutes over. I didn't even realize.
I know. It's great. I do have another client myself. So, I'll go open the door for them and let you go do your relationship thing.
All
but
right.
Alan, always a pleasure. Any last, get a hold of you, checking, throw out a website, whatever you got if you want.
Everything we do is to help you reach your potential in health, wealth, and love. You want to be healthier, wealthier, more in love? I'm your guy. nextleveluniverse.com is the website, spelled just like it sounds, nextleveluniverse.com. The podcast is Next Level University. Personal development and success, mentors, coaches in your pocket every day from anywhere on the planet, completely free, 2,100 episodes, all free. So YouTube, all the platforms. Thank you so much.
Outstanding. Alan, you're the best. And for everybody else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Sharpen the Spear podcast. If today's episode helped you think sharper, act smarter, or see new profit potential, do me a favor. Share it with a fellow home service owner and leave a quick review. Ready to find the profit hiding in your business? Head to sharpenthespearcoaching.com and book your free profit discovery call today. And until next time, keep sharpening.